Lights up bright, dope, Campbell Stadium is alive. Seminoles rise and fight to survive. Helmet gleam under that blazing sun. Florida State where champions run. Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Turf torn up under Seminole feet. The war chant pounds to the heart's own beat. Chop through the noise like a storm in the sky. 2025, we reach for the high. Seminole sideline 365.
Welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. It is me, KB, and it is just me tonight because the old man is busy. He's doing something. I can't keep track of all his retired life activities, but yeah, you have me. We're doing a little something different. It's a Friday night game, or it's not even a Friday night. It's a Saturday night game at 10:30 p.m. We did our show on Tuesday this week because the late game schedule change and stuff like that. So we're gonna give you something that you can enjoy, whether it's Saturday night or Saturday leading up to the game, Friday night, or when you're relaxing, Friday afternoon. We'll give you something, a preview for the show, discussion points, something you can enjoy on your free time or maybe on the way home from work. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate the likes, subscribes, any sharing. It means a lot to us. But before we get into that, there was some breaking news Thursday night as I am recording this, that a potential name of a coach that I know Florida State fans were potentially looking at people are rumors of, oh, who could Florida State go after if they get rid of Mike Norvell? Well, it won't be Kirk Cignetti at Indiana. He has signed a new deal at Indiana for, I believe it was an 8-year deal, and it's got some interesting clauses in that deal. His buyout, as you can imagine, is fairly significant now, as I just had up here. If they fire him without cause, he will be due $93 million in fully guaranteed money. So these buyouts continue to get crazier and crazier by the day, but Kirk Cignetti is off the Penn State board at minimum, because that was a name that was trending as the days went on, with James Franklin being out of there. But Indiana was quick to confirm and lock in their coach for the long term after the season they're having and the season they had last year, being in year 2 with the Hoosiers. But this is really what college football is now. Coaches, if they have a year or two where they're hot, their agents get involved and they get signed to buco dollars, and that's kind of what happened with Mike Norvell, Florida State. He came off a 10-win season. He follows it up with another undefeated regular season and conference title, massive extension, and then fails into the disaster that was last season and what we're looking like this season, and then you have that buyout. So it's hard, because if you don't retain a coach, you could lose him, and if you do retain a coach, it comes with a massive buyout, and it's one of those. It's a risk reward thing. The other side of that is, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Penn State contract and the Penn State buyout and clause with James Franklin, this kind of went under the radar a little bit. But I was reading about this on Wednesday, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but what they built into his contract is language that would offset how much they have to pay him in his deal over the course of a couple of years. So they built into James Franklin his contract that upon his firing, he is obligated to look for a new job. And it has to be, I think, specifically in broadcasting, coaching. It kind of related to sports, coaching, scouting, and broadcasting only, it says. But he is obligated, it says in the contract, to diligently search for and make good faith effort to obtain another position appropriate for his skill, coaching, scouting, or broadcasting only. And they can request evidence that he is seeking such employment. to make a good fit, that is to obtain the maximum reasonable salary at that new job. So essentially, um, basically, he has to go look for new employment, and then basically that new employment would basically whatever he's making there, the difference in that would offset whatever compensation they owe to him. I think that's a very, very smart way for contracts to be laid out. Now, I don't know because I agree. I don't think a coach should be able to sit on his ass and collect $50 million for the rest of his life. Um, if he doesn't perform. Now, I don't think you should just be able to fire at will anybody you want just because you don't like the way he looks or the way he talks. But if someone doesn't live up to the standard and what you're doing, he should have to, he should have to try to work. He should have to try to continue to do something or look for a job and not just be able to collect millions and millions. I think this is a fair clause. And if you sign it, you think it's fair too. So I think it's an interesting wrinkle of how you could recoup some of that $50 million or whatever the buyout is for James Franklin. And it's something that's unique, and I don't believe it's in, say, Mike Norvell's contract. I haven't heard about it in other people's contracts. You don't hear about these things until they're made public when these things happen, when some guy gets fired. But Penn State, being I believe a public university, it is. You kind of see these contracts. So I think that was an interesting thing that came out. I think that universities and ADs and people representing the universities are going to have to get creative in the way that they structure these deals with coaches, especially as we in this new age of college athletics, because these numbers are growing and growing and growing. Like I just said with the Indiana deal, his buyout is now at 93 million fully guaranteed if they fire him without cause. $93 million fully guaranteed. I hope there is some structuring in there that if he has to go for like something to offset that somehow. But I think these universities have to get creative with the way that they structure these deals to protect themselves somehow, so that some guy just can't fail and fail and fail and then be fired and be left holding $90+ million. I think that's a little crazy. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. But with that, I do want to get into Florida State against Stanford. Obviously, Florida State travels out to Palo Alto. Is that where Stanford is? Yeah, Allen, California, going against a not so good football team in the Stanford Cardinals. I don't think it's not fair to say that Stanford is not a good football team. I think their own fans would say that. And I don't think Florida State's a good football team right now either. So Stanford's 10th in the ACC. Florida State is behind them at 13th in the ACC. So we're worse than them. We're 0-3 in the ACC. Obviously, Stanford is 1-2 with a win against BC. So we're right behind them. But so far this season, Stanford struggled. They have their one conference lone win is against BC. They've only won be it at home. So their 2 wins were at BC at home and San Jose State at home. All their losses are on the road when they're traveling away. So that may be an advantage on their side, is be able to host Florida State at 7:30 at Pacific time. But so overall, when you look at the statistics of this football team, it is not a strong one. And every probably media site or podcast you're listening to is probably regurgitated those stats to you. They give up a ton of yardage per game. This is a team that gives up over 400 yards total per game, 300 in the air. The funny thing about them, though, is that they're actually a pretty run stout team. They're only giving up around 115 yards, 111 yards rushing per game. So they're actually top 6 in the top half of the league in terms of rushing defense. But it's just their passing defense is so terrible that it just breaks the numbers. Totally breaks the numbers for them. So, which is weird in the case of Florida State, because Florida State does want to run first. They want to set up the run. They want to dominate the run. They want to set up Sawchuk and Chroma and those backs to be able to dominate the day on the run, control some of the clock, get explosive. But they haven't been able to really do that consistently and control the running attack the last couple of weeks. And Stanford seems to be some of their strength is on the defensive line and stopping that run, and where they get hurt is on the back end. And I don't think this is a game where Florida State necessarily wants, once again, you don't want to see Tommy have to sit back and pass the ball, even though it seems like a game this is where he could do that, right? You may not have Deuce in this game. You may be down a couple more receivers. We don't know if Randy Pittman's going to play this game, right? Tommy got banged up last game, we heard, in the first play of last game. You don't want him to have to sit back there. Now, Stanford isn't a team that's generated a ton of sacks this year, right? I think they actually have less sacks than Florida State does this year, which is kind of surprising. But this isn't a game where I want Tommy to have to sit back and just bomb it over the top, even though I think he could do that in a situation like this. This is something where I want to try to press them on the defensive line instead of the run. Even though the stats would say, well, that's where they're strongest. No, this is a game, even with Micah Pettis out, because he wasn't on the depth chart. We believe that he's struggling with a concussion. Regardless of that, this is a game where you should be able to establish the run. This is a game where I believe Chroma should have a big game. I want to see him to start being the starting running back of this football team. That's where I want to start embracing the youth movement. And now some people, the old man and I, were debating last show about, do you start going full youth movement? Do you start pulling, some of the veterans who aren't going to be here next year and start going with some of the younger guys? And I don't think it's time for that. I don't think it's start abandoning the game plan and the depth chart and start pulling guys in. But guys like Chroma, who have shown the ability that they can take starting reps and are going to be the bedrock of this team if you can retain them, I think those guys should get starting reps. I think it's a real shame that, a guy like Chroma is still getting only like 10 rushing attempts per game. I know they rotate a lot, but I think for a guy like that, I think he excels probably as the game goes on, because he's a strong running back. He's a guy that is going to wear down the opposing team as the game goes on. So far in the season, he only has 41 attempts on 47 snaps. You compare that with 98 snaps for Sawchuk in 67 attempts. So Sawchuk almost has double the amount of snaps on the field that Usman has. And I want to see that start to even up in the second half of the season here. Sawchuk isn't coming back. I believe his eligibility is up. So I think we need to start transitioning that more towards the true freshman, and start kind of passing that torch along. Because I've seen enough in Chroma to believe in his ability. Now, he does have to work on he's had that fumble issue. Sawchuk has had the fumble issue as well. Frankly, all the running backs have. Each of the running backs who've started this year, Keziah, Chroma, and Sawchuk, each have fumbled. It's not good. And I put that on the running back coach. Something they're not doing in practice on securing the football has not been, kind of knocked in their head enough for them to protect that football. And if you watch some of the games, you do see sometimes they carry it kind of loose. And it's like, it feels like that's something, whether it's a drill or a part of practice, where they're just not drilling that repeatedly into securing the football as they're running. But it's a tendency now. But at this point, I believe Chroma needs to start making that transition as being the lone, kind of the he gets 2/3 of the carries versus just a third of them or a quarter of them. And when you look at, kind of his blocking grades, those can obviously improve, but he's not a terrible blocker by any means. His pass blocking rate's at 79.7, which is pretty good for a true freshman. It's actually better than Sawchuk. Sawchuk has struggled in pass blocking. Look at his grades. And Chroma is a pretty good receiver. When he's called upon to do it, he's got almost 96 receiving yards so far this season. So that's one thing I want to call out there in this game. I want to see Chroma get heavily involved, whether it's receiving the backfield, what's running in the backfield. Get him the ball, get him involved early, and press the attack on the running game. Don't force it over the top because there's a weakness there. But when we flip over to the receiving side, we need to establish who are the other receivers on this team. I mean, Deuce Robinson has almost double the amount of targets as any other receiver on this team. Deuce Robinson has 37 targets for Florida State right now, which I don't think anyone would be surprised on. When Deuce Robinson was out of the game last week, this offense struggled to find an identity. And that's one of the reasons I think, obviously, we lost that game. There was many reasons we lost that game. But when he left, this offense struggled to figure out who they were and how to move the football for a good period of time. And now, I've said it for a couple weeks here. I believe Micah Danzey could be a huge all-star, if he lives up to his potential, 3-year potential here, he could be a guy you remember, a legend in this program, in my opinion, because he's got the speed, he's got the body, he's the body type, he's got the size, and he's got, I believe, some of the best hands on the football team. But they got to find a way to get him more involved as a receiver, not just a gadget guy. Because he, in my opinion, is more than a gadget guy. And so you look at the receiving stats here and some of those receiving numbers. You see the targets. They got to get Danzey more involved in terms of finding him the football. Some of that's on Tommy. Some of that's on Gus. We haven't had Randy Pittman for a couple of games here, which has been disappointing. He's been banged up. And that was a guy you knew that you were going to have to rely on a lot, not only for his receiving, but for his blocking ability. He's one of the best blockers on the team. But him being out has hurt this team a lot. But it falls off from there. No one else on this team is getting looks or getting open or both. And that's disappointing. Guys like LaWayne McCoy, highly talented when he came in. He's in his second year. This is his opportunity to step up. Where the hell is Jalen Lucas? I've said this. The old man has said this for 3 weeks. This guy is not getting on the field. He's not getting seen. He's not getting shown. This is, as well, one of your fastest guys on the football field. I think he's got good hands. Why can we not use him like a Hunter Renfrow or one of these speed backs, like the Julian Edelman types? Use him as a guy at the backfield who does an in and out kind of, use him as a gadget player out of the backfield to get open, do a little slant in the middle of the field. Get him on the linebacker, especially the linebackers for this Stanford team who have struggled at time in coverage. Get them on an island. They're not gonna be able to catch up with Jalen Lucas. I can guarantee you that. How many times have our linebackers been put on an island this year, and we haven't done the same? Very few linebackers in this country are going to be able to stay with Jalen Lucas in coverage. Why are we not exploiting those matchups? Why are we not using the ability of someone like Jalen Lucas? I keep hearing about Javon Boggs. He's hurt. I get it. But we have other guys I've seen the ability of. And if Javon Boggs is not ready, he's hurt. Okay, there's other guys that we should try to get involved here. Squirrel White, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it's injuries. I don't know if it's... I've almost forgot about him being on this football team, to be honest with you. I don't know about you guys. I don't know what the NIL package was for him, but right now we are not getting a return on investment on that deal because he's made essentially outside the Alabama game for that. That's the only thing I remember about him is that first game. He made that big catch down the sideline, and that's all I can remember about him. 10 targets, 4 receptions, and 52 yards in 6 games. It's not what I came to expected, not what any of us expected, and it's probably a contributing factor of he should have been an X factor for this team and helping us win some of these games. And I'm not going to say he's the reason we lost games, but it hurts when you can't have a weapon like that contributing more. But this is a game where you're going to have opportunities downfield to go deep, to exploit their defensive backs, where you should have time behind the offensive line to sit back and have 3 seconds to scan the field and find guys. And so if guys don't step up in this game in the receiving core, then we're going to have to ask some much, much bigger questions about the receiving coach and the caliber of the players on this team. Because this is a game where guys should be able to have big performances if we want them to. This isn't Miami's defensive line. This isn't, we're not playing an all-star team here. If you want to throw, you're going to have the ability to throw on this team, and guys have to make plays downfield. That's it. Now, switching it over to what Stanford brings to the table. Like I said, this is a team that has struggled this year. They've struggled a lot, but they do have some players that could give some fits to this defense. And I'm not going to say and act like, Stanford's going to. We should not lose this game. I don't want anyone to pretend like, like Stanford's going to put. If Florida State loses this game, I'm not saying Mike Norvell will be fired on the tarmac on the way home, but I would be very disappointed if a decision wasn't made within 7 days, because this is a game that 1,000% cannot be lost. Cannot be lost if Mike Norvell is serious about it. If he loses this game, that means he's lost the locker room. If Florida State does not win this game by 17 plus points, then he's lost the locker room, in my humble opinion. And I'm not an expert, but I know what's on paper. I know the rosters. I know what I've seen performance-wise. Florida State should be able to score 31 plus points on this team, and they should be able to hold Stanford to 14-ish, 17 points. So they should be able to cover the spread with those margins. It's simple math. And if this is a tight game, that once again will go back to the core issue with this team. Game plan, strategy, execution, preparation, and overall head coaching. Because the talent on the field is not going to be the issue on Saturday night. It would be, what do they do leading up to the game? Were players prepared to do it in the game? Were the right plays called? Why didn't they execute them? And were the right adjustments made when they weren't working? And I think too often during these course of these games, adjustments weren't made when things weren't going the right way. The right plays weren't called at the right times, and the right substitutions, just never came. And some of that is there may not be the right players to substitute either. Some of that is there. You don't have the right player at the right time either, and that is going into recruiting. But every one of these games we played so far, in my opinion, has been winnable. But either lost because of player in the wrong position, player didn't make the right tackle, missed a tackle, turnover, the list goes on. This is a game you should go in, take care of business, get on the flight back, take your bye. Because when you look at the other side of the field and the offense, they've struggled. They've struggled a lot. Their quarterback, Cole Brownson, is like I said, he struggled this season. He has not obviously been lights out. He struggled with efficiency, and he struggled with efficiency because of the line he's behind. I mean, this guy has been sacked, I think, 20 times so far this year. He's under constant pressure. Constant pressure. Yeah, 20 sacks this year. He's got a drop back to sack rate of like 5%, I believe. So if you think you're having a bad day, Ben hates going to game day because he knows he is in trouble. He's going to take some abuse every time he goes on the field. But he goes up there and he plays. I give him credit for that. But this guy knows every time he goes on the football field, there's a good chance he's going to get sacked multiple times behind that offensive line of his. That offensive line for Stanford is not very good. Prongos and House on the edges are especially the ones that are giving up a lot of sacks. And so what does that mean? If their left tackle and right tackle aren't very good, who should have the big days then? Jenkins and James Williams. If James Williams cannot get a sack in this game, once again, we have to ask the question, where's our NIL ROI? If James Williams can't have a big day against Stanford, what the hell are we doing? Why aren't we calling out pot roast for this? There was rumors about pot roast and Mike Norvell getting in an altercation after the game last week. Once again, I'm not an insider. I don't think most people know if that actually happened or not, but they're just speculating on it. But if I was Mike Norvell, I would be saying, what the hell is our defensive line doing? We can't generate any pressure on the line. The only pressure comes is from the secondary. Our secondary has the most amount of sacks on this team so far. I think the leading sack, Ashton Barker leads the team in sacks with 3. Linemen aren't getting sacks. The edges aren't getting sacks. They're generating nothing. They're not finishing around the quarterback. So this weekend, against a line that's highly susceptible to giving sacks, if Jenkins, if Amari, if James Williams, these guys cannot finish at the quarterback, you got to start calling their position coach out. You got to start calling the players out too, because this is prime opportunity. This is prime opportunity. So those are the matchups you should be watching, and those are the players you should be watching. Because last week we were getting up like 3 seconds, time in the pocket, and that freshman was just eating us apart. Just eating up that zone. Looking at the middle, looking at the running back, just picking it apart. That should not happen this week. But you know what? We don't know. Because I didn't think it was going to happen last week, and it did. And I didn't think it was going to happen the week before, and it did. I didn't think it was going to happen against UVA, and it did. Talking about, though, offensive weapons, because if they do keep this game close, there's going to be some players that, who are the players that are going to keep it close for them? Well, one's Micah Ford. Micah Ford's a pretty good player. He grades out pretty well. 78 run grade. Overall, 76 offensive run grade. He's a guy that can, generate contact. He's averaging like 4 yards after contact. He's got 10 runs of 10 plus, so he can break off big runs if you let him. And that's something in the past we've seen. If guys don't, Florida State doesn't bring a guy down, and they've been susceptible to that. You gotta that. We've seen this in the UVA game. We saw it, in the Pittsburgh game of time, especially in the Miami game. If you got a guy in your arms, you got to bring him down. Because a guy like Micah Ford, we saw it with Reed last week. If you have a guy like Micah Ford in your arms, you got to bring him down. I thought Jabril Rawls did a great job last weekend of coming up and supporting the run. And he did a great job of finishing. We need more of that type of coverage. But we need it from every player. We need guys like Rawls all over the field finishing what they start in terms of tackles. That type of stopping power. Because a guy like Micah Ford will burn you. He's a guy that has, a 34% breakaway ability according to PFF. This is the guy that generates most of their first downs, so they're going to be looking at him when they need a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. That's going to be their guy. And he's an explosive player for them. And you have to look out for him in the passing game as well. He's got 11 targets on the year, so they'll look for him on 3rd and short, 3rd and 4 long. So that's a guy that's got to be on the radar. On the receiving side, guys you probably heard about before, C.J. Williams is a big-time target for them. He's kind of like our Deuce. He's got, almost double the amount of targets as the next leading receiver on their team. He's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised is he's a 4-year guy. I think may have gotten the red shirt his first year. So this guy that could be, he came over from Wisconsin. He may jump. You could see him jump over if he's on track for almost 1,000 yards. He could have 1,000-yard season if he continues to track this way. You could see him move in the portal again. But this is a guy that also, he's not having a big touchdown year, but he's had some big games. He's really started to come on his last 3 games. So I'll pull up his stats here so you guys can see those. But three straight 100-yard games. 103 against Virginia, 130 San Jose State, and then 109 against SMU. So once again, this is a big kind of, he gets highly targeted. He had 18 targets against San Jose State, 13 against Virginia, and then 9 against SMU. So this is the guy that they look to. This is kind of like the same. Like I said, this is like the Deuce Robinson for Stanford. He's the safety blanket of this quarterback. When he's in trouble, this is the guy they look after. Just like Tommy, when he's in trouble, he goes for Deuce. But we may not have Deuce. So this is the guy that Florida State needs to blanket and take out of the game and make this quarterback get worried. and may cause turnovers, because this quarterback is susceptible to turnovers. 4 interceptions on the year, and he knows he's got to get the ball out fast because his offensive line is not going to protect him for long. So cause disruption, break down the pocket, and take away his primary, take away his safety blanket, take away CJ, and cause chaos. That's how you win this game, and that's how you put it away early. Because once again, a kid like this, a kid like CJ can burn you. But you got to limit the damage. You got to get him down early. You got to, one tackle on the floor. Do not let him break a tackle and break one long. Limit the damage if it gets in his hands. That's the big thing there. Other than that, the only other guy on Stanford that really scares me a little bit on back to the defense, those are 2 offensive players. I mean, I think Stanford, the only other offensive player is their tight end, Sam Roush. He, because we've struggled with tight ends a little bit, especially in the middle of the field. We've had a couple times, struggling to play with them. Sam Roush is a guy with 2 touchdowns this year. He is their leading touchdown receiver this year. So we have to be aware that who do most quarterbacks go to as their backup, or when they take away their primary, they look for their tight end. And as a quarterback, if you take away CJ, I'm going to look for my tight end as kind of my other safety blanket. And that's the guy that does leave it in 3rd in receptions, 1st in touchdowns. And I'm going to look to him. So our linebackers have to be acutely aware that that guy could be streaking in the middle of the field and could be trying to exploit the middle of that zone. So we can't have the linebackers be overly aggressive and trying to, if the quarterback moves around a little bit or he steps up, we can't have them crash it. We have to stay in that zone, looking at having their position on the field. Do not let Sam get open in the middle of that zone. People have to pick up the right man, and we've seen too many times these linebackers out of position. So as long as we limit the tight end, as long as we limit CJ, and not let this running game for Stanford get out of control, this should be an easy win. This really should be an easy win. Now, on the flip side, one more player I was going to mention on the defensive end that I thought was interesting that could cause a little chaos for us, because most people are saying the Stanford defense is kind of bad and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't think the Stanford defense is all that great. But one player on that defense I think is pretty okay, especially in the second. He's a linebacker in the secondary. His name is, where did I say? I have my one screen up now. I can't find it. Oh, so Hunter Barth is a guy that I'm intrigued by. So he's interesting. He's not necessarily great in defense, but he has good plays and he has bad plays. He's not great in run defense, but he has a pretty good stop rate. Now, the other guy, so that's one guy that you want to look for. He's not a special player, but in run defense, he can make some plays. The other guy though is Clay Patterson on one side. He's got a very good pass rush grade at 89.2. He's averaged 8 hurries. He has 8 hurries on the season, 3 sacks. So Clay Patterson's one guy that, once again, with this line that's kind of shifted a little bit since Pettis has gone out. I don't know. I'm not gonna. Tommy should have no issues on Saturday night. But if we do, that's where we need to analyze some of the depth on this offensive line and why aren't certain younger guys getting a chance to compete? Are they not ready? Misevaluations of the offensive line and things of that nature. But overall, guys like Clay Patterson, they've shown the ability to cause chaos and generate sacks, but there's no one else really on this defensive line for Stanford that really should be able to cause the chaos like Miami did for us. And that's just a simple fact. And if they do, like I said, there needs to be a bigger conversation around just the overall evaluation process of our offensive line. And I think most of us are aware that Alex Atkins made some very bad talent evaluations in recruiting and who he offered scholarships to. But if Adrian Medley struggles again, if Rizzi struggles, if Gunnar Hansen struggles against this defensive line, I think that, once again, it's going to be unfortunate. I don't expect them to. I do not expect them to. But we'll have to have some bigger questions. So that's really my wrap up here. I'm not going to go too much in detail. You probably heard a lot of the bigger detailed breakdowns about player to player, stuff like that. But I just wanted to give my little spiel on it. I expect us to win by 17 plus. Because I do still have faith in the capabilities of this full team. I don't think players have quit. I think at this point they shouldn't quit. Because if I was a player, I would know I have multiple things to play for. One, I want to play for myself. I don't want to go out there and lose. That's just for me as a person. Anything I do, I want to compete. Whether I'm playing a video, if I'm playing Call of Duty or Battlefield or college football on Xbox, or I'm playing basketball outside, I don't play to lose. So I want to give my full effort. I want to give my full time and my full energy to whatever I do. So that's one thing. The second thing is that I want to have good tape, whether it's for the NFL, whether it's for the CFL, whether it's for Arena, whether it's for the UFL, whether it's for the portal. I want to have good tape available for myself representing me as a player so that I can, that's my resume, right? That's my resume as a athlete, and if this is going to be my career, for my career. So I want to put the best tape and my best foot forward every time I'm on the field. And that should be how I execute every time I get the chance to. And so if we have the right locker room culture, that should be the mindset. I'm not only playing for myself and representing myself and my resume and stuff like that, and I'm also playing for those around me. So that's why I believe they should win this game if that culture is still there. If that right culture and that team mindset is still intact. If it's not intact, then you'll see a team, I believe, that will struggle. If that team mindset and that culture has deteriorated to a point where they're struggling and this game is in overtime, or God forbid they lose, then I think last week and the last 3 weeks has really deteriorated things. And then I think a drastic decision will have to be made. But I don't believe it has. Now, that's not to say that Mike Norvell will be here in 6 weeks or 7 weeks. But I'm saying for this week, I believe they have the ability, they have the players, and they have the game plan to be able to beat the spread and win on Saturday night. So with that, let me know if you agree or disagree. Obviously, I don't think this game, the outcome of this game, if they beat the spread and win, that's not going to stop the rumors or the outcome of Mike Norvell's career. He's expected to win this game. He's expected to win by 17. That doesn't change his future. The only thing that changes his future, in my opinion, if he wins out, Mike has to get 9 wins, in my opinion, to subdue the fan base. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that. But for me, he has to win out, which would be 9 wins. He would have to win the final 6. That includes beating Clemson, beating Florida, and then beating winnable teams like NC State and Wake Forest. All these things are very doable. That would silence a lot of the critics. It wouldn't necessarily be a satisfying season, but it would bring you to a bowl with the ability to win 10 games. And I think that would bring a lot of the pressure down. And that's something you can sell to your recruits. That's something you can sell to the portal. That's something you can sell to the investors who are the boosters and the future boosters and the NIL. But going 6-0 right now seems tough, but that's what I would be selling to my players. That's what I'd be selling to my staff. That's what I would be selling to Alford. 6-0. 6-0. Right? It's not an ACC championship because you're, at this point, being 0-3 in ACC, God, every other team ahead of you would have to fall apart drastically. But that can get you to potentially 10 wins with a bowl game win. That's how he takes the pressure off. But this weekend doesn't. That's just beginning of that 6-0 goal. So we'll see. I'm trying to stay positive, but that's what I would be thinking if I'm him. I'm preparing every week to go 6-0. So yeah, let me know if you disagree or agree. Appreciate the time. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Try to I don't know if you're going to record the game and watch it first thing Sunday morning. I will not be doing the post game reaction because it'll be like 2:30 or whatever for it, because these games take 3.5-4 hours. But we'll probably be doing a post game reaction or recap show Sunday or Monday. So hit the bell, subscribe to see that. Hopefully we're celebrating a win, and we have some cool things to recap and talk about. So let us know. But thank you all for the support. We appreciate it. And have a great and safe weekend. And we'll talk with you soon. Go Noles. Go Noles. And let's get that win this weekend. Take care, everyone.
Seminoles sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Every yard we take